The Fort Knox Mystery, What Nobody's Talking About. Let me tell you about something that happened on January 30th, 2026. While the entire world was watching gold crash by 21% in what became the worst single-day drop in 45 years, something else occurred that barely anyone noticed. The United States Department of Justice quietly released 3 million pages of Jeffrey Epstein's files to the public. Now, before you click away thinking this is just another conspiracy video, I need you to hear me out. Because buried in those files was a single email that accidentally opened a door to questions that nobody in power wants to answer. And I'm going to show you exactly why those questions point to gold potentially hitting $10,000. The email itself was sent on June 18th, 2011. The sender's name is redacted, completely blacked out. The recipient was Jeffrey Epstein. The subject line reads, "The European Union Times," and it forwards an article with this headline: Russia says IMF chief jailed for discovering all U.S. gold is gone. Now stop right there. I need to be completely transparent with you about something, because this is where most people covering this story are being dishonest. That article was not written by a credible journalist. It comes from a source that fact-checkers have rated as far-right conspiracy pseudoscience with low credibility. Business Insider called the claims complete nonsense. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that article is verified fact. The article makes wild claims about the head of the International Monetary Fund discovering missing gold at Fort Knox, about tungsten-filled fake gold bars being sent to China, about CIA leaks and Russian intelligence reports. None of that has been independently verified. Those are not confirmed facts. So why am I even talking about this? Because underneath the conspiracy theory, there are real documented events that actually happened. And when you look at just the verified facts, without any conspiracy theory embellishment, the story becomes even more disturbing. Let's start with the man mentioned in that email, Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Most people have never heard this name. He was the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, essentially the person who oversees the entire global financial system. On May 14, 2011, he was pulled off a plane at JFK Airport and arrested, accused of sexually assaulting a hotel maid. His career was destroyed overnight, front-page news everywhere. Here's what most people don't know. Those criminal charges were completely dropped. The case fell apart. His accuser's credibility collapsed during the investigation. In 2015, a French court acquitted him of separate charges. So the most powerful financial official on the planet was publicly destroyed, removed from his position, and then the entire case disintegrated. And here's something really strange. 3 days after Strauss-Kahn was arrested, another powerful international banker was charged with the exact same type of crime in New York. Same city, same accusations, same week. That case also eventually collapsed. Now, I'm not saying there was a conspiracy, but when two powerful men connected to international finance get taken down within days of each other with similar accusations, and both cases fall apart, you don't need a conspiracy theory to find that extremely unusual. Let me talk about Fort Knox itself, because this is where things get really interesting. The United States Bullion Depository at Fort Knox holds 147.3 million troy ounces of gold. That's 4,580 metric tons. At today's prices, we're talking about over $800 billion worth of gold. It's the largest single stash of gold anywhere on Earth. At least, it's supposed to be. Here's a number I need you to sit with. The last full comprehensive audit of that gold happened in 1953. That was 73 years ago. Think about that for a second. The government audits you every year. They audit businesses, charities, everything. But the largest gold reserve in human history hasn't had a full independent public audit in over 7 decades. In 1974, a small group of people got to tour part of the vault. They looked at some gold bars and left. They didn't conduct a full count. They didn't test anything. That was 52 years ago. In 2017, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin visited Fort Knox and tweeted, "Glad gold is safe." That was the verification, a tweet. $800 billion in gold, and the proof it exists is a tweet with an exclamation mark. The government claims they do annual audits, but let me tell you what those actually are. Someone checks paperwork. They look at seals on vault doors. They don't drill into gold bars to check if they're solid gold or tungsten filled. They don't weigh every bar. They don't bring in independent auditors. The results aren't made public. You're just told the gold is there and to trust them. Now here's where this story becomes absolutely unbelievable, and everything I'm about to tell you is completely on the record. In February 2025, Elon Musk posted on X asking who was confirming the gold wasn't stolen from Fort Knox. He said he wanted to live stream an inspection. Then Donald Trump, aboard Air Force One on February 20th, told reporters on camera, "We're going to go into Fort Knox to make sure the gold is there." Senator Rand Paul immediately jumped in and formally requested that the Treasury Secretary arrange an inspection visit. He gave him a 30-day deadline. Remember those 3 names: Musk, Trump, Paul. The richest man on earth, the President of the United States, and a sitting U.S. Senator. All 3 publicly committed to opening Fort Knox and showing America what's inside. And then, complete silence. Total silence. Musk's last public mention of Fort Knox was in April 2025. After that, nothing. Trump never mentioned it again. A sitting United States Senator asked the Treasury Secretary to arrange a visit to verify America's gold reserves, and the Treasury simply ignored him. The 30-day deadline passed, then 60 days, then 90, then 100 days. Not a single word of response. Think about that pattern. These are people who don't typically go quiet on things. Trump especially talks about everything, doubles down on everything. The one thing he went completely silent on is Fort Knox. That silence, in my opinion, is more significant than any email. A retired Treasury Inspector General, who has actually been inside the vault, said something interesting. He said if Trump really believed the gold was gone, he would be down there immediately. He suggested the silence means everyone knows it's there, and proving it would just be embarrassing after making such a big deal about checking. But there's another explanation. What if they went silent not because they know the gold is there, but because they found out some of it isn't? I have no proof that happened. Nobody does. But that possibility is exactly why Congressman Thomas Massie introduced the Gold Reserve Transparency Act in June 2025, calling for the first comprehensive independent audit since the 1950s. Independent auditors, full physical count, Bars drilled and tested, results made public. That bill is sitting in Congress right now, collecting dust. If you think this kind of question only exists in conspiracy theories, let me tell you about Germany. In 2013, Germany asked the Federal Reserve Bank of New York to return 300 tons of German gold that was stored in American vaults. The response? It would take 7 years. 300 tons of gold, supposedly already separated and accounted for, and the answer was, come back in 2020. When the gold finally did arrive, the bars had been melted down and recast into new bars. They weren't the original bars Germany deposited. The official explanation was that it was to meet current standards. But critics asked an obvious question. If the original bars were sitting right there, why would you need to melt them down and make new ones? Germany got their gold back by 2017, but the fact that it took 4 years to return something that should have been loaded onto a plane in a week has never been satisfactorily explained. If the Federal Reserve couldn't immediately return gold that belonged to Germany, was it actually sitting there waiting? Or did someone have to go find it first? Now let me show you why all of this points to gold hitting $10,000. The United States government officially values its gold at $42 per ounce. That price was set in 1973, over 50 years ago. Gold today trades above $5,000. The official book value of all the gold at Fort Knox is $6.2 billion. The actual market value is over $800 billion. If the government revalued that gold to market price, it would add roughly $794 billion to the Treasury's balance sheet overnight, without raising a single tax or cutting a single program. The U.S. national debt just crossed $36 trillion. They desperately need ways to make the numbers work. At $10,000 per ounce, the U.S. gold reserve would be worth over $1.6 trillion. That's not conspiracy, that's just math. And while Americans are debating Fort Knox, China has already made its decision. They're acting like the answer is no. China has been dumping U.S. Treasury bonds for over a decade, pulling out $634 billion. At the same time, they bought gold for 14 straight months without skipping a single month. They built their own payment system, now live in 124 countries. They restricted silver exports on January 1st, controlling 60 to 70% of global supply. If there's even a 1% chance that some of America's gold is compromised, what does that do to every country holding U.S. dollars? It makes them do exactly what China is already doing. Move out of paper, move into physical. Trust nothing you can't hold in your own vault. Here's something that convinced me gold is going much higher. After the worst single-day gold crash in 45 years, you'd expect at least one major bank to say gold is done, that it peaked. Not a single one did. J.P. Morgan raised their target to $6,300 after the crash. Not before, after. They watched gold lose 21% in one day and told their clients to buy more. Other major institutions are calling for $10,000 by 2030. These aren't random people on the internet. These are institutions that move billions of dollars with the best research teams on the planet. Every single one looked at the worst crash in decades and said gold is going higher. Let me be completely honest with you. The Epstein email doesn't prove Fort Knox is empty. The article it references is from a discredited source, and I've told you that clearly. I'm not claiming America's gold is gone. I have no evidence of that, and neither does anyone being honest with you. What I am telling you is that the questions are real, and the silence is real. The email isn't the evidence. The email is just a match. The fuel was already there. Decades of unpassed audit bills, ignored Senate requests, broken presidential promises, and a financial system that books its gold at $42 in a $5,000 world. Here's what stays with me after researching this. It would be so easy to end this story. One audit, one day, bring in cameras, bring in independent auditors, count the bars, drill 10 of them, show the test results, publish a full report. It would cost less than what the government spends in 30 seconds, and it would end every conspiracy theory about Fort Knox permanently. I keep coming back to that simple fact. If the answer is good, why wouldn't you want to give it? The fact that they refuse, the fact that 3 of the most powerful people on earth promised to do it and then went silent, that tells you something. I don't know exactly what it tells you, but it tells you something. If the gold is there, open the door and show us. They won't. And that, more than any email, is why I believe gold is heading to $10,000.